Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Shattered Innocence with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of this. Repeat that. All right. Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. Without further ado, I'd like to start it off with a couple Bible verses. In Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. In Matthew 18, verse 10, get that one off first. I don't want to leave the scene. Okay, let's go to this. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones, for I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Colossians 3:21. Then we need to do like Isaiah 1:17 says, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, and plead the case of the widow. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is the use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringed. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips and balance in favor of fair use. We're going to score this at the bottom. If you know anything about the person we're going to be discussing, the disappearance of Jonathan Hagans in 1968, you are urged to contact the Jacksonville Beach Police Department at 904-240-166. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you, Chris and Chris. All right, so Jonathan Hagans, the oldest missing child case in Florida. Please help. Hello, Eric. Good to see you, bro. Without further ado, I hope everyone's doing great today. It's been hot. The weather in different places, there's hurricanes, tornadoes. So please be careful and be careful of the uh, heat situation. So this is where unsolved Jonathan Hagans, the oldest missing child case in Florida. An evening at the beach turned into a nightmare in 1968. The Hagans family had spent decades trying to answer the question, what happened to John? In Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Let's see if that's on there. No, it's not. Okay. On the website for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, go all the way back to the beginning of Florida cases, and a black and white photo of a young boy sits at the front of the line. 3-year-old Jonathan Hagans was affectionately called John. His is the oldest missing child case in Florida and one of the oldest in the nation. It began in Jacksonville Beach the evening sorry, of June the 11th, 1968. I remember the day vividly. Joe Hagans III, John's older brother, said. Hagans was 5 years old at the time and says he, his older sister Susan, one of her friends, and John, along with his parents, aunt, and uncle, were at a small snack shop near the beach across at 16th Avenue South. The kids were outside near the top of a ramp that led down to the beach, while the adults were inside by a window. So they could see us sitting there, Hagan said. He says he remembers John wanted to go back inside the restaurant. I watched him walk back to the door. There was a little door on the side, almost like a little screen door type thing, Hagan said. He reached up and opened the door, and I turned around facing back towards the ocean. He says about 5 to 10 minutes later, his father came out and asked where John was. The children responded he should be in a restaurant, and that's when Joe recalls he saw his father start to panic. He went in a hunting frenzy. My mom then found out he was missing, and she broke down. Police were called, lifeguards dispatched to the area, and even the Navy sent a helicopter to search. But there was no trace of John. Searches of the water continued for 5 days, but no body was ever recovered. Though his parents were told John likely had drowned, Joel Hagan says his parents didn't believe that was the case. There was not one person that said they saw him going towards the water, but there were several people that said they saw him going back towards the snack shack, Joel Hagan said, John's younger brother. The family believed he was kidnapped. There's a lot of roadblocks to a case this old, tells deter, uh, Detective Corporal Yvonne Waring with the Jacksonville Beach Police Department. Detective Corporal Warren says in the quit that now. Sometimes computers are kind of wishy washy. I'm sorry. See, it keeps trying to. I'm trying to outline it, so it keeps trying to go back. Detective Corporal Warren says that in 56 years since this happened, the landscape has changed at the 16th Avenue South access. Some witnesses have died, and for others, their memories faded. So this is poured through the reports from multiple investigators over the last 5 decades to gain insight on what happened that night. Susan was down closer toward the water. She doesn't report seeing him down by the water. First Coast News' Katie Jeffries asked. Not according to the reports I've seen, Warren said. Is there anybody that reported seeing John talking to anyone? Okay. That reported seeing John talking to anyone at the restaurant or walking with anyone? Jeffries asked. Not that I'm aware of. Not that I've seen any other reports from back then. He had seemingly vanished, and until there was proof he died, she says they will continue to investigate it as a missing persons case. An age progressed photo of what Jonathan Hagans may look like today was released by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Hagans will be 59 years old currently. Okay, this right here was written, okay, in 2024. Okay, so yes, he will be 59 years old. So when we go back down here and says, the Hagans family says they are hoping DNA databases could help. My brother Joe and my sister Julie have their DNA in the databases, multiple databases, tells Joel. So far, there have been no matches, but Detective Corporal Warren says in addition to DNA, she hopes exposure of this case will help bring in the new leads. Someone might remember John's face from '68. That's why I'm telling y'all, please, to share this. Please get this out there. Get other people that do podcasts or whatever. Please do this case because the family deserves answers or justice, whichever the case may be. Both. Think back to then. Did somebody show up with a child that didn't have a child before? Maybe they made up some story that they had to take in a child, tells Detective Corporal Warren. If there's something where someone showed up with a child they didn't have before, and that child is with them holding up a photo of Jonathan Higgins, then I would hope somebody could see this and call us. It could potentially reunite a family that has been searching for 56 years, 57 years now. We have definitely not given up hope, tells Joel Higgins. We are still optimistic. We do realize the odds are stacked against finding him. If you know anything about the disappearance of Jonathan Hagans in 68, you are urged to contact the Jacksonville Beach Police Department at 904-270-1661. So let's go to the next one. This is where the missingkids.org, Jonathan Edward Hagans, this is the little boy right here, missing since June the 11th, 1968, age now 59 years old. Well, Jonathan's photo is shown age progressed to 51 years, which now he's 59, so it needs a new progression. He was last seen during a family gathering at Jacksonville Beach, Florida on June the 11th, 1968. Jonathan was last seen wearing blue swimming trunks with a red stripe. And that's where the Jacksonville Beach Police Department, Florida, 1904-270-1661. And here's the number right there, 719-392, the NCMEC, National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. That's a certain number for him. All right. So here is where another picture is from missingkids.org, Jonathan Edward Hagans. And it says 59 years old right there up there. All right, so let me go to the next one. This is the Charlie Project as well. Jonathan, circa 1968, age progressing to age 52, missing since 68, Jacksonville Beach, Florida, endangered missing. His date of birth was May the 3rd, 1965. He's 3 years old. Jonathan had previously fractured his femur. So it says this is details. That's an investigating agency, the Jacksonville Beach Police Department, which we have a different number than that one. This one says 904-630-0500. The details of the disappearance. Jonathan was last seen during a family gathering at Jacksonville Beach in Florida on June 11, 68. He has never been heard from again, although the police believe the child drowned. Witnesses saw him follow his father to a snack bar, and his mother believes he was abducted by a man and a woman standing outside the establishment. In the late 1980s, a man named David Bonnabel claimed he might be Jonathan Bonnabel, said he'd been kidnapped as a young child and was raised in isolation by a woman in rural Louisiana. He claimed to have memories of his childhood that matched the details of Jonathan's life. DNA testing proved he wasn't Jonathan. However, the authorities determined Bonnabel was a con artist who made up the kidnap story. He was actually a Mexican national who had come to the United States illegally and wanted to find an American family to adopt him so he could become a U.S. citizen. Wow. How sickening is that, y'all? Tried to do that kind of stuff, exploit a family that's missing a kid. Jonathan's family believes Jonathan was kidnapped and is still alive. Little information is available in this case. Okay. So now I need to change the settings on my computer where y'all could hear it. Audio.
More than 5 decades, the Hagans family has searched for any trace of a boy who went missing from Jacksonville Beach in 1968.
Our Katie Jeffries leads our Unsolved series and has their story tonight.
What happened to Jonathan Hagans 56 years ago is still a mystery. It was meant to be a fun visit to the beach with his family, but it turned into a nightmare. And though some police at the time thought he drowned, his family is adamant that he was taken.
Blonde hair, blue eyes, 3 years old.
On the website for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, go all the way back to the beginning of Florida cases. and a black and white photo of a young boy sits at the front of the line.
Just a night of panic and horror.
3-year-old Jonathan Hagans, known as John John. It is the oldest missing child case in Florida and one of the oldest in the nation.
It was a little, like, pizza pub on the ocean.
It all began here in Jacksonville Beach, the evening of June 11th, 1968.
I remember the day vividly.
Joe Hagans was 5 years old at the time and says he, his older sister Susan, one of her friends, and John John, along with his parents and an uncle, were at a small restaurant near the beach access at 16th Avenue South. The kids were outside near the top of a ramp that led down to the beach, while the adults were inside by the window.
They could see us sitting there.
He says John John wanted to go back inside the restaurant.
I watched him walk back to the door. There was a little door on the side, almost like a screen door type thing. He reached up and opened the door, and I turned around, facing back towards the ocean.
He says about 5 to 10 minutes later, his father came out and asked where John John was. The children responded he should be in the restaurant. And that's when Joe recalls he saw his father start to panic.
My dad went into a hunting frenzy. My mom then found out he was missing, and she broke down pretty good.
Police were called, lifeguards dispatched to the area. Even the Navy sent a helicopter to search, but there was no trace of John John. Searches of the water continued for 5 days, but no body was ever recovered. Though his parents were told he had likely drowned, Joel Hagans says his parents didn't believe that was the case.
There was not one person that said they saw him going towards the water. There were several people that said they saw him walking up towards the snack shack.
They believe he was kidnapped.
There's a lot of roadblocks to a case that's this old.
Detective Corporal Yvonne Warren with the Jacksonville Beach Police Department says in the 56 years since this happened, the landscape has changed at the 16th Avenue South access. Witnesses have died or their memories faded. So she has poured through the reports from multiple investigators over the last 5 decades, especially witness statements from that night.
And if Susan was down closer to the water, she doesn't report seeing him down by the water.
Not according to the reports that I've seen.
Is there anybody that reported seeing John John talking with anybody towards the restaurant or walking with anyone at any point?
Not that I'm aware of, not that I've seen in any of the reports from back then.
He had seemingly vanished, and until there is proof he died, she says they will continue to investigate it as a missing persons case. This is an age-progressed photo of what Jonathan Hagans may look like today. He would be 59 years old. The Hagans family says they are hoping DNA databases could help.
My brother Joey and my sister Julie both have their DNA in the database.
So far, there have been no matches. But Detective Corporal Warren says in addition to DNA, she hopes exposure of this case will help bring in new leads, that someone might remember John John's face from 1968.
Think back to then and see if did somebody show up with a child that didn't have a child before. Maybe they made up some story that they had to take in a child. If there's something where somebody showed up with a child at that time that they never had before and that child is him, then I would hope that somebody could see this, remember this, and call us.
You hope and, wish for the best.
And hope is what the Hagans family has held on to through the decades. The hope that John John is still alive. The hope he realizes who he is. And the hope that they will be reunited after 56 years.
We've definitely not given up hope. We're still optimistic, but we do realize that the odds are stacked against finding him.
If you know anything about the disappearance of Jonathan Hagans, contact the Jacksonville Beach Police Department. Katie Jeffries, First Coast News, on your side.
Just announced, Walmart, Target, CVS, and Walgreens are now accepting the grocery allowance card.
All American
So please get this out there about Jonathan. Please. Family deserves justice. They deserve answers. So be sure you share this information. I appreciate and love each one of y'all. And God bless y'all. Please get the word out and have other people to please podcast on this story. Maybe siblings. I think the parents are no longer with us, and that's sad to see and to know if they are or not. But hopefully they are, and they'll get answers and be able to hold their child. But the brother is alive, so please pass this around. Let's give this little boy peace, the little child within. All these people has got to be worried, sick. They deserve to have their brother back into their life. God bless each and every one of y'all.